you know what? It doesn't really matter what your life circumstances are, what your gender is, what your ethnicity is. You can be successful. You can make money. You can be equal. I think this is what made Fiverr so attractive to me, And I think at the end of the day, the whole idea of fulfillment, what makes me happy in my life? Is it, spending time with my kids? Maybe it's just controlling my own destiny. I think those values are super important.
Freedom.
Freedom, exactly.
Welcome to the podcast, where we introduce you to incredible humans who share their journeys with the mission to inspire you to harness your own inner tenacity to drive your life and career forward. And now, your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, where I bring the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today in the podcast is Gali Arnon. Gali is the Chief Business Officer and Marketplace Lead at Fiverr, the #1 freelancing marketplace with over $360 million in annual revenue and over 4 million active buyers. She manages a multi-billion-dollar company's business strategy, product development, and implementation. And prior to her CBO role, Gali served as Fiverr's CMO for 6 years. She built the brand's marketing team and propelled Fiverr to global recognition and led the company through major milestones, including its IPO in 2019 and first Super Bowl commercial in 2020. We have a lot to get into, so let's do it. Gali, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
And thank you so much for joining us from Israel. We love to spread the podcast across the world here. And as we mentioned before when we were talking, big fan of Fiverr, customer for a long time. I went through my own journey with Fiverr and experimenting with freelancers, especially for me as a solopreneur and a creator. Fiverr has been an incredible resource. So when the team approached me to have you on, I was excited here. So you've had an incredible career and an incredible journey. And I love to unpack folks' upbringing, where they came from, how did they get there? And if you don't mind me asking, what did your parents do for a living?
So, my father, he was an architect for many, many years. He still is, by the way. And my mother, she was an educational counsel in a high school. And then she was promoted to be the supervisor of the educational counselor in the Tel Aviv district in Israel. So she came more from like the area where you work with kids, you take, treatment kind of areas. And my father comes from things around design and aesthetics. And this, I think, combination of the ability to understand what people need, want, what can motivate them on one hand, and on the other hand, this understanding of design, this eye for aesthetics is what I've always kind of absorb at home.
So when you grew up as a kid, if you look back on your childhood memories, do you remember whether it be family trips or even just, in your neighborhood, your dad, pointing out things from a design perspective and the thinking behind it?
Yeah, I think first of all, yes, he was very aware of everything around us. Aesthetic was something that was very important for both my mom and dad. Their home is a beautiful home. It's well designed and it's been renovated so many times because this is their hobby.
I'm sure.
So I think we, as me and my brother and sister, we kind of learned how to respect aesthetics and
Mm,
to enjoy it. My brother lives in Berlin now, which is a super interesting city in terms of architecture, history, and kind of styles of architecture. So yeah, we're doing like family trips a few times to Berlin together. And this is definitely something we kind of notice together as a family. But I think another note about my parents and what was common for them is that they were like a second generation to a generation that came to Israel as immigrants from Europe after World War II.
mm.
Both their parents, my grandparents, came from Europe, and they came to Israel with nothing. So they were, I think, this heritage of being self-made and growing from nothing to building yourself personally and as a nation. I think that was like a very strong
Of
ethos
course.
at home. Yeah.
And it's that work ethic, right? And leading by
Yes.
example and, showing your family and I don't know if you have kids or not, or like how do you set that example for them is by working hard and showing what's important and showing what's built. Do you think marketing was always in your blood, right? That kind of mindset, was that something that was always a path for you?
So I think marketing, especially in tech companies, is really unique in a sense because it combines my two favorite areas of interest. So one is psychology. When I
Mm,
went to university, I studied psychology. I was very interested in understanding, the inner kind of soul of people, why they do things the way they do them. That I mean, the whole idea of understanding what moves people, what motivates them, was a big area of interest for me. And another thing was that I was very good at math in high
mm.
school, and then I was an SAT instructor, a gym instructor. I loved math, really. I think the whole idea of marketing in tech companies, especially in the last 20 years, is this combination between psychology, brand marketing, and data. So I think
The analytics, of course.
analytics, I think filling out those positions it kind of attract me in marketing because you were able to do both. You were able to deal with data and analytics and understand what people are actually telling you through big data, which was for me was such a great thing. So yeah, marketing, I think when it combines this analytics and psychology is what gives me the, what I like about it the most.
Interesting. Was there a point early in your career when maybe you wanted to go off in a different direction? Like maybe follow a different interest, follow a different passion? Was there ever that time? Because I speak to so many people who have longevity in a marketing career, and there was like, you know what? There was one point I wanted to be in travel. I wanted to run a hotel, or be a flight attendant, or something crazy, and travel the world.
Well, you travel the world, yes, always. I mean, that's yeah. Whether to do it full time, not sure, but yeah, definitely. I mean, the one thing I enjoy the most is kind of getting to new places, learning new cultures, enjoying new type of culture, food, views, and all of that. So that's for sure. But like full time, I think, for me, this whole idea of doing, I think it's not only about marketing because now I'm doing it. I'm feeling a role that is more business and product in nature. But
Hmm.
I think tech and innovation is where I want to be the most. I mean, I think if I'll imagine something I would like to do when I grow up, and I am already quite
I
grown
love it.
up.
When I grow up, I want to be.
Yeah, I think not to be a psychologist, but I think I've learned so much over the year as a manager, working with people. This is something I would love to do more, like providing like
Mm.
mentorship or some kind of like helping. But by the way, especially women, this is what I love the most. I mean, I do it as a hobby. So I provide mentorship to in different kind of frameworks to women. This is something I enjoy a lot.
So you mentioned something interesting, being a people leader and a mentor, and that comes with time and experience. Do you recall, maybe it was early on in your career, maybe that first, maybe it was a mistake or something you thought you knew about managing people? Because people grow into being a people leader. It took me a while to learn how to be a people leader. But do you remember that first kind of moment or, real learning experience where you're like, you know what? That's not the right way to lead people. Hard lesson learned. I'm going to course correct.
Oh my God, yes. I remember this exact moment in time,
Here we
actually.
go. Most people don't
So,
want to ask that question. Most people don't,
no,
Gali.
I like it. Just, let me talk about my, mistakes. I love it. So, I'll tell you what, I remember when I was very young, because my first managerial role was at the age of 24. And not everyone on my team was strong enough.
Hmm.
And, you know, instead of sometimes taking harsh moves, letting people go. I I felt so uncomfortable doing that. Providing what we call it, in constructive feedback, but it was
Hmm.
negative feedback, or say you
Of
need to do it
course.
differently. Um, so what I used to do is I used to just compensate because I knew I can do a lot of things, and I was capable, so I just tried to do things instead of them, compensating on the things that they can't do right. And you can't do it. I mean, you can do it when you manage a group of two people, but when you manage a team of 10 and then later on a
It's a
team
lot.
of 50, it's not scalable. um, and then I realized I need to face reality and I need to start letting people go. And I think I learned the first lesson when I was 24 or 25. And then later on, when I got my first CEO role, and the whole management team was a management team that was relevant to the previous CEO, but not my team. When I needed to
Mm,
change them again, it took me time. But then I realized that sometimes it's doing them a favor and not only me, because when you are just leaving people in a place where they don't excel or they can feel fulfilled or successful, they're more miserable than you usually. So I think that was like a big
exactly.
lesson.
You hit the nail on the head. And as you were talking, I was saying that because as hard as it is to let people go, in so many cases, that's the right move for them. They don't
Right.
know it in the moment. They don't feel it in the moment. So let's pivot and let's talk about Fiverr. Was Fiverr a company that you were attracted to? Were they attracted to you? How did that courting process work out? Did they recruit you? Did you know somebody there in
So
Fiverr?
I was introduced to Micha. Micha is the founder and CEO, Micha Kaufman, founder and CEO of Fiverr. And I think there were few people in the industry that thought that we should be introduced to each other, because
Mm,
I heard from
Kismet.
few different people that they think it's the right introduction to do. And I think the first time I met him, he was, I mean, Fiverr was very small back then. I mean, I think we had around 200 employees. It was a private company. Was a startup, still known for, for the early days, the Fiverr in the early days. And I met with Micha, and Micha had this fantastic vision about the way freelancer will work and the fact that Fiverr will be this platform for the future of work. And he was so charismatic and so impressive when he was talking about this vision that I couldn't just, if I left this first meeting so excited that I said, wow, I wasn't excited about something about work for many, many years. I felt like, it's a job, but I've never felt some excited about a mission or a vision of a company
Mm.
the way I did with Fiverr. I think it then took few more months of, getting there and understanding that the right position for me will be the CMO position. And it was a mutual kind of process. But I think I knew it was right from the very beginning.
It's so fascinating too because I truly believe that almost in every company, no one's going to be as passionate or care as much as the founder, as the creators. But when they have that distinct ability to share their vision in a way that captivates and excites people and brings them on board, and that's the way it works, and that's what the magic is all about. So you were there for from the early days too, and I remember when Fiverr kind of came on the scene too, and it was like a freelance marketplace. I'm like, all right, this is interesting too, but then I started to hear like some negative feedback that it was like a race to the bottom, that people were especially in the States here, they weren't using local US based creatives, and they were just looking for the cheapest, resource. How did the company kind of combat that myth early on and still even today?
Yeah. I think today it's very different. The Fiverr already have 730 categories, and we have Fiverr Pro, which offers like top-notch vetted
Hmm.
sellers for our businesses. So I think today it's very different. But yes, it was a very big marketing challenge to change the perception of Fiverr and to allow people to understand what Fiverr really is. And Fiverr, in many ways, was a platform that allow democratizing skills and talent of people
Hmm.
from all over the world. So it
Globalization,
gave,
of course.
yeah, and by the way, Fiverr was not the only platform that was part of this globalization movement, from e-commerce to
There was
Airbnb
plenty.
to, of course. So we were part of this technology movement. I think the idea of showing that Fiverr has more to offer was in the basis of everything we did. We used our community a lot. We showed the success stories of our freelancers that were able, to be
I
actually to
remember that.
make millions of dollars on the platform. We show the beautiful products and deliveries and services and creative projects that are being created on the platform. We used our businesses and freelancers a lot in testimonials in the community, and it was a long journey.
And
And I think we were able to change this perception over the years dramatically.
and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the original name Fiverr didn't it come from the first products of like $5 an hour? Is that where it came from?
Yeah, it wasn't $5 an hour, but it was services that started from $5. Like this was the
It
basic
start
start. Yeah, it was the basic minimum price. Don't forget, it was 14 years ago, and obviously
correct.
prices
Different time
increased
and
since
place.
then. But
Now
I
it's
think
7.
no,
Inflation.
no, but I would say that, originally for a startup with no marketing budget and a need and a desire to expand
Resource.
in a very strong network effect, the whole idea of, reducing the risk of making an error so people will actually try it for a company for a service that no one else had. I mean, no one else bought digital services online before
Mm,
Fiverr. And then the whole idea of starting from $5 is reducing the risk of error. So more and more people will start using the
and try
platform,
it.
which was the case.
And I remember for me, I was a customer early on. For me, it was just access. It was access to, get things done, creative, and trying. For me, it was a process because you had to form a relationship with these freelancers, and many of them were overseas from where I am here in the States, and there was language barriers, and you had to figure out ways to communicate and test and learn into it. And one of the moments that came to me was as a solopreneur myself is this freelance revolution, this fact that I could communicate and work with people all over the world. And yes, it's a lower cost to me, but that number to them was empowering them. It was able to provide them for their families. And I remember at one point, after working with one freelancer for about 7 months, he sent me a photo around holiday time. It was towards the end of the year. And it was a picture of him in front of his car. And he said, "Thank you. Thank you for you and some of the other folks I work with that I was able to afford a car for my family." And I was like, that was meaningful. And he was doing good work for me, and we formed a relationship, and he was part of my success. And that's when things started to click. And I was like, wow, this world is now so open to everybody. I'd love to hear your thoughts just on like this evolution of like this fractional or freelance kind of mindset in the workplace overall. Like people are just taking control and not necessarily having to work for big companies.
First of all, I think you described the magic of Fiverr more than I could ever done it myself. I mean, this is the
Okay, sign
magic
me up. I'll
of
take a
Fiverr.
job.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna be on our next ad. No, seriously, because this is the magic of Fiverr. You can access talent from all over the world. This talent have access to
Hmm.
opportunities that maybe they couldn't have otherwise. And this democratization of talent where, what, it doesn't really matter what your life circumstances are, what your gender is, what your ethnicity is. You can be successful, you can make money, you can be equal. I think this is what made Fiverr so attractive to me, taking you to the beginning of the conversation when you asked me about why to
Hmm.
come work for Fiverr. So that's one. But then the whole freelance mindset, and obviously, this notion of, oh, we can work with everyone remotely. During COVID, I think the whole world kind of understood
Everybody.
it. The
Hmm.
whole notion of it was accelerated. But even before that, I think this generational shift between Gen X to millennials and now Gen Z opened people's mind about what work really is. There's no more this 9 to 5. You're not obliged to, one place where you can be there forever and then retire. It's not like our parents' generation. I think
No,
the first important kind of evolution is in the generational shift in the mindset of people and their notion and perception about work. Obviously technology with collaboration tools, platforms, Zoom, all those capabilities also accelerated that. And I think at the end of the day, the whole idea of fulfillment, what am I, how am I, what makes me happy in my life? Is it, spending time with my kids? Maybe it's traveling the world. Maybe it's just controlling my own destiny. I think those values are super important. Freedom, exactly. Be my own boss, take control over my own destiny is what making this lifestyle so popular around the world, I think.
And that's absolutely incredible, right? That idea of freedom, that I could create something, that I could empower myself, that I could be my own boss, that I could work from wherever I want. But as everyone knows, that's not an easy thing to do. That takes
Mhm.
work. You have to be good at what you do. You have to be a great communicator. You have to be a good business person, because now you have to manage your business. And a lot of freelancers struggle because they're very strong creatively, but maybe they're not strong business communicators. Are there tools and kind of workshops and programs at Fiverr, under your leadership, to help freelancers understand how to manage time, how to manage business, how to maybe bridge a communication gap?
So first of all, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of Fiverr is to make sure you can use your skill and we will take care of all the rest. So, you know how to be a designer, great. You don't necessarily know how to market to new businesses or new clients,
Mm-hmm.
we'll do that for you. You don't know necessarily how to negotiate the prices, the
Mm-hmm.
timing, again, we'll do it for you. So the whole idea of
Cultural differences, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but cultural differences in negotiation.
Of course, it's a big thing. I mean, in some cultures, it's very common to negotiate. In some, it's not. The whole idea of
Mm.
Fiverr, when you put your price up front and people know what to expect, and then also, things that can seem not that important to you, but for freelancers, just getting the money on time and
Mm.
not in net 30, net 60, net 90, or forever is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Fiverr takes off all those tedious work and things that they don't like to do, and enable them to focus on what they're good at, which is designing or programming or video editing and so on. But we do need to help them communicate and set expectations with their clients. So we invest a lot in courses. We have Fiverr Learn, and we have webinars, and we have different type of tools and resources to help our freelancers know how to communicate better with their businesses and with their buyers, and help them kind of navigate this.
And it's fantastic. It's really about community, and it's community on a number. How do you personally, as a marketer, define community?
So, the Fiverr community is, I think it's the most important especially in marketing. It was our most important pillar and the backbone on everything we do. How do we, the community of Fiverr is those people who are, one, work on the platform. For them, we are more than just, a service. This is their lifeline. In many cases, this is where they make their money. This is their work. And for them, a lot of them, as you said, being a freelancer is not only fun and cool. Sometimes they spend, I don't know, 5-10 hours a day alone in their studio, and that could be lonely. And I think
Of course.
and Fiverr's commitment in that case is to give them a feeling of belonging, that they're not alone. They have us, they have each other. So to us, the community is what makes Fiverr, a business, a viable business. This is who we are. They're our faces. They are the main service providers. People think about Fiverr, or they kind of create their perception about Fiverr according to the freelancers that work on our platform. So we have a commitment to them, and we feel that this is our number one commitment for
Fantastic.
the community. Yeah.
That's a great mission.
Hey, everybody, I want to talk about a product and platform that I absolutely love, and our latest sponsor, Interseller, the prospecting and outreach platform of choice for recruiters and sellers. Whether you're doubling down on business development or recruiting talent, Interseller does all the heavy lifting of finding contact data, automating the email and follow-up process, and syncs all that rich data into 20 plus CRM and ATS platforms. Reach out now and get going on a 2-week free trial, and let them know you heard about it from Adam on the podcast today. Check out the link on the website. Appreciate it.
So let's shift the conversation and talk about something that people are talking about nonstop is AI. And there's a few different fronts on this. You know, a lot of people talk about how AI is going to take their job. And we just saw this big announcement from Intuit, right? That they were laying off a lot of people so
Yeah.
they could shift resources, you know, to more AI. And people say AI is going to take my job. My stance on it is, you know, AI isn't going to take your job. It's the people that know how to use it, the people that know how to embrace it. And I always tell people also use AI as a tool and not a crutch. Don't rely on it for everything. But when we talk about AI in the creative space, there has to be some concern when we look at like Midjourney and all the other from a creative perspective that if I'm a freelancer, I'm like, oh my God, is my job in jeopardy? How is, I mean, listen, under your helm, I mean, a tremendous amount of, I mean, what was the piece in the New York Times, the full page ad, an open letter to AI. You
Yeah.
guys addressed it head on. What was it? What was the thought process there as a company to get ahead of it?
So, even when the early conversations or the early hype around AI started, we realized there's a concern, not only among our freelancers, but among humanity overall. So
Hmm.
people were afraid to lose their jobs. People were afraid
Big
that
time.
AI is going to replace all of us and all of us are going to be unemployed. And I think we had a more optimistic view of that because AI, yeah, it's amazing, an amazing technology. It's nothing like we've seen before, but eventually it will only make people more productive, maybe even more creative. It will not replace people. That was like that was very clear to us from the very beginning. People will use AI to create better products, better solutions. It will not replace them, and we took this optimistic view and started like a series of marketing campaigns. So the first one was in February last year with the open letter to AI from Micha, where we kind of wrote a letter about this relationship between humanity and AI. And then later
Loved it.
on, we created an out of home campaign that created a lot of buzz, where we used our freelancers. And it said, AI took my job, and then like a second later, it replaced to the next level. Like, so people thought it's like people that are
Yeah, it's a great teaser. Hmm.
yeah. So and I think, listen, obviously there's going to be some tasks, simple tasks, maybe simple creative tasks that people will use AI to replace humans, and that's very clear. But there's going to be others that are going to be created. We already see them. We opened a whole AI vertical already last year with new services that we didn't have before. So chatbot,
It was an
uh,
opportunity.
yeah, chatbot developers or people that work with
AI prompt
outputs.
engineers. Hmm.
Exactly, and people that just take output from ChatGPT and edit them or change them or do fact checking or you name it. And even around like images and image creation, people still need help. It's not like the whole world knows how to use Midjourney or
No, 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 no,
Sora.
no, no.
It will, yeah. So it's another tool, just
You have
like
to know what
not
to put
everyone.
into it.
Exactly, just like no one. It's not like 100% of humanity knows how to use Photoshop. Still, people still come to Fiverr for those freelancers who knows how to use Photoshop. So yes, it will change the dynamic of specific tasks. It will create others. I'll give you another example. You
Please.
know that because people now use more ChatGPT, people write more books. When people write more books, they need more services around books, like book editing, book covers, books and
Yep.
publishing, book promotions, and they can find those services on Fiverr. So there are those changes, but I don't see any scenario when AI is going to replace humans.
No, and then people and I tell a lot of folks this too. You have to adapt. You have to adapt, and it's kind of interesting too. My friends and I, there's a few of us that we have our friend chat groups on WhatsApp, whatever, and then we're also talking business to each other, and we're sharing tips and tricks. And my kind of thought with AI, especially because as a creative, and I use it for my podcast creation, I use it for my business, I use it for research in the podcast too. You you need to keep innovating and trying and testing and use it as a way to be more efficient and not take the result as gospel. Don't say this end result is the truth. Edit it, humanize it. And I think there will always be a need for it because, like, listen, technology is evolving at a rate that we've never seen before. The
Yeah.
exponential growth is incredible. And I think we are going to get very close to a point of, we're almost there now, of mimicking human empathy and emotion. But I don't think we'll ever get 100% of the way there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like, what's your thoughts on the technological pace of AI?
So first of all, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's accelerating in a pace,
Every day.
we've never seen before, and every day there are new tools and new capabilities. One, I think people need to know how to master those capabilities, and it's, we are in the tech industry, we are in this, not the whole world know how to use those tools. Not everyone is, on
Tech
top of
savvy.
all those innovations, or tech
My mom has
savvy.
no idea.
Yeah, and not even our parents. I mean, just for like
Yeah.
the common person in the street, I'm not sure everybody knows what the new tools are. So that's one, I think. Eventually, and there's so many examples we've seen already, you need humans to take the output of ChatGPT or Midjourney or Sora and make it more unique, make humanize it. Yeah, you use the word. It's funny, but it's just not. Maybe it will evolve. Maybe it will progress. It's just not good enough or unique enough or funny enough yet.
No, it's not. And Gali, like, I mean, you kind of
You
hit
know
on
what?
something
It's
that,
not. It's not human enough. That's the issue.
and and exactly, and you hit on something that I was thinking about, that I have not thought about. You and I, and a very small subset of the population, we're so close to this.
Right.
We're involved every day, and I don't think, me personally, that I'm thinking about the mass population. They don't know how to use it. Parts of it are in their everyday life from a technology perspective, but they're not hands on.
Right.
They're not hands on with it. But I think you hit the nail on the head too. It's that touch of human. Like, I bet you, and I know I could do this also. I have a pretty good eye in a lot of content of noticing if it's AI generated.
Yeah.
Right? There's something about the wording. There's something about the graphic. There's something about it where it's like it's missing that aesthetic, as we went back to in the beginning of the conversation. That
Absolutely.
touch, that feel, right?
It's just not. It just not doesn't have this human spark, which is
But we're
something that is irreplaceable, I think.
what scares you about the pace of technology right now? What scares you about AI and this? Are we turning into the Terminator? Like, what's your fear
First of all,
personally?
I'm not someone who's usually f- I'm not afraid of technology, and maybe it's my age. I've seen, I'm not that old, but it's not the first.
No
No,
one's
it's
saying.
not. It's
Well,
not the
we're becoming the
first.
old people.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not the first time that we have something, that is changing in the way we live. I mean, think about mobile.
Hmm.
I don't know about you. I didn't grow up with a mobile phone in my hand, and
No, I
it
had a
that
wire on my phone attached to the wall. I
yeah,
didn't. I had a
of
beeper,
course, yeah, me too. And it was
right?
ringing, and it had this weirdest wire, and yeah, whatever. And then, and I grew up without social networks, and when
Hmm.
I look, and I have three daughters, by the way, and I was so afraid from them using cell phone, and it is scary because there are
It
implications,
is.
and you need to put limitations on it, and you need to make sure they have more than just a phone in their life. But eventually this is how we live today, and if they're able to, if I provide them you know the right tools, they will be able to use it in the right way, and they will be able to use the judgment in the right way, just by the way, as I used to do
Hmm.
when I didn't have a phone. So what scares me about AI? I'm not scared about AI. You know what, one thing bothered me about AI, and I'm going back to my semi-feminist agenda. I think women are behind in adopting AI. I see it everywhere. We have a research, I think, that supports that, and I hate when it happens. I hate when new
Mm.
technology emerges, and 50% of the
Male
population are not.
dominated.
Yeah, yeah, and this is what scares me. I want to make sure that people have access to AI, and I think there's like this. very natural tendency of maybe not adopting new technologies first. And I think this is something we need to work with the next generation, with women around us, to make sure that they are early adopters as well. So yeah, that's something like,
So,
yeah.
so what are you gonna do about that? How are you taking that mission personally? What's your plan?
So it's a good
I'm
one.
putting you
First
on
of
the
all,
spot here.
yeah, no, I think first of all, first and foremost, within Fiverr, AI is something we put a lot of emphasis on internally to make sure all employees have access to AI tools, to AI educations, to AI. So I
Hmm.
don't think the gap exists here specifically in the company, which I'm very proud of. um, I encourage my own daughters to use technology and get friendly with it. But you're right, I need to do something bigger than that, and like on a bigger scale, and not just on in my own circles.
So let me ask you, while we're talking about technology too, blockchain, Web3. That's something I'm very passionate about too. I am incredibly bullish on the blockchain, especially from a democratization of information, whether it be finance information, healthcare information. How is geez, how is I'll edit that. How is Fiverr utilizing blockchain and Web3 tech to innovate and move forward?
So I think mainly in the services we offer to businesses, we have a lot of categories we open around it, and a lot of capabilities that our freelancers are offering. But that will be the main focus. So areas where our freelancers are adopting to those new tools, we are giving them tools in terms of like information and education and webinar. But that would be the main kind of area where we
Interesting.
focus.
What's next? Give us some alpha here. What's next on the Fiverr horizon that you could share?
Oh my God, there's so much. There's so much. I think, Fiverr, we talked about the roots of Fiverr, right? So Fiverr started from those small businesses, from kind of simple task, and Fiverr wants to be the platform of the future and present of work. And
Hmm.
work is more than just the services that we offer in our marketplace. It's kind of, it varies in so many ways, and we want to be the platform that enables people to work with freelancers in every way they want to. We want to make sure Fiverr is relevant to bigger businesses, bigger companies, enterprises, and we want to make sure that we are the main way where people work with freelancers, or the main destination. We are already, by far the biggest brand in this area, but we want to make sure we allow all type of engagement, working with freelancers in many ways, different categories. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I want to double back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the conversation around management and people leadership. As I mentioned to you before we came on the air, the show is about careers and giving people advice. At this point of your career and where you're at, I assume when you're hiring, when someone gets to you in the interview process, that they already have the skills and the experience for that position. But how do you assess character and values? What type of questions do you ask to kind of get to the kernel of who somebody is if they are going to be a value add to your team and your organization?
First, I want to make sure that they are very curious people, so that they want to know things about the world. I always ask about hobbies because I'm really
But what
interested
if they're
in.
weird?
That's great. That adds a lot of
Weirder the
color,
better.
especially in marketing. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
depends how weird they are. Yeah, of
And how
course.
much I want to share, right? Right.
Yes. But let's say they're in the kind of spectrum. So yeah, definitely this is really interesting for me to see that they have other interests, and they're doing things that are special. So that would be one. Two, I'm looking for to see people that are in. I'm usually asking about failures, because I think people that dealt with failures, experienced failures, knew how to deal with them, has a very strong personality, and this is what I'm looking for, because they can always talk to me about their wins,
Hmm.
which I appreciate a lot, but I want to see people that have this mixture of dealing with wins and failures, and having this self, that there's their inner kind of strong personality that allows them to deal with failures in the right way. That's really interesting for me.
You hit the nail on
um,
the head. I've spoken to so many leaders who say the same thing: curiosity and accountability over failures. And what have you learned from them?
right, right, because if it just devastates you and you're looking to blame others, that's one way to deal with it. You're probably not going to take anything from it. But if you learn from that and move on, and try to do things better the next time, that's the kind of personality I'm looking for. And I'm just looking for people that are passionate, and they have the right DNA. I don't know, I usually feel it. People that I would love to
It's a
spend
gut
more
feeling.
time with. Yeah, it's more like, yeah, a gut feeling. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting too. You say that people that I want to spend more time with, and I think that that needs a little bit of clarification when I talk about it, because as a leader, you don't want to surround and keep me straight on this. You don't want to surround yourself by people who are just going to say yes to you, right? You don't want yes
Yeah.
men and yes women. You want diversity, and not just diversity on the outside, but diversity of mindset, right? Isn't that what makes up, like, to surround yourself as a leader with different thoughts and ideas, so it's not just your vision all the time?
Yeah. I heard from someone, she was asked the same question, and she gave a really good answer, I think. And she said, I'm always imagining that I'm getting stuck with them in traffic for like 2 hours with, the candidates. And I'm asking myself, is it going to be interesting to be stuck with
Mm.
them in traffic? And I think this is
You jump
something
out of the
that,
car.
yeah,
I'm just gonna
no,
start
because
walking.
yeah, I think the more they're interesting and are different than you, then probably you will benefit more from their existence around you, and they will contribute more. So yeah, absolutely.
What's keeping you up at night these days? Aside from the turmoil in the world, especially in Israel and the Middle East,
Oh
what
yeah.
as what's keeping you up business wise? What's keeping you up? What's always on your head, on your mind?
um yeah, how to focus on the right things
Hmm.
that will make an impact, how to make sure that I am navigating this ship to the right
Hmm.
direction. I think that's usually what keeps me kind of making sure I'm taking the right steps, I'm doing the right moves, I'm moving fast enough. I have this, you always, I guess I'm the biggest critique, you say, of myself. So to make sure I'm taking the right directions, I'm brave enough, I'm moving fast enough. Yeah.
Well, I love it. Let's bring it home here, Gali. What is the single greatest piece of advice that you've ever received that you take action on every day? A mantra, something that you say every morning when you wake up, or just something that keeps you focused.
Yeah, I think one of the, it's not the best, right? But it's a good one. I think one of the things that I was told once is not to do things that other people can do instead of me. So if I'm sitting there doing tasks that other people can do, um, it's probably not the best use of my time.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say, sometimes I just do things because I want to set examples, and I want to kind of practice what I preach for, so
Mm-hmm.
things that are setting examples to others. But if I do things that my team should have done just because they're not doing good enough, or because I'm trying to save time or something like this is something I would definitely, yeah, it was a good advice. And yeah.
I like it. That's a good one. And last but not least, you've achieved a level of professional success, personal success. Kali, how do you define success?
um so that's the thing. I think success is to be, I'm gonna be really like naive here or use a cliche. I think to be a good person is to be successful. Seriously, I mean, now you can say, so what is a good person? I mean, it could be someone who donates to the community millions of dollars and hours of a time, but it could be, good person could be in many ways. But at the end of the day, I want to have great relationships with people around me, people that I love. I want to maintain relationship with people that I love. I want to make sure, you know, my family is happy and healthy. I want to make sure my friends are happy and healthy, and I want to live meaningful life. So meaningful life doesn't need to be to make a lot of money or to be chief, whatever. Meaningful life is to do something you're challenged by. You feel like you're doing good in the world. Fiverr is doing good in the world in so many ways. That's being successful, I guess.
I couldn't agree more. Well, Gali, I want to thank you so much for joining me and my audience and everyone
Thank
here on the
you.
podcast today.
Can't
Everyone
believe
check out
we had an
Fiverr.
hour.
Fiverr,
Yeah.
Fiverr.com. You guys all know Fiverr. Where else could folks connect with you? Where could they learn more? Where do you like people to connect?
So first of all, Fiverr.com, obviously. And then with me on LinkedIn, Gali Arnon. Can find me on LinkedIn.
Check it out. Gali, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And everyone listening, thank you. And anyone listening out there, if this show resonated, leave a review, rating. It goes a long way. You know where to find out more at thepodcast.com. Follow us on all the social media channels. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode soon, jam-packed with more incredible humans. Thank you for listening, subscribing, and sharing. To join the conversation, search the podcast on LinkedIn. And to catch up on past episodes and more info, please visit www.thepodcast.com.